we're gonna spend some time in silent meditation out in the natural beauty of Appalachia. Just kidding, there's gonna be a man there, and he'll be pursuing us. We open a U-Haul, rented by Jessica, who is packing up all her stuff. Unfortunately, she picked a trailer only big enough to carry 3 to 4 of her largest items. Despite this, we're led to believe that she only has to leave behind a couple of non-essentials. At any rate, we're soon on the road for a grand cross-country trek.
Sorry.
If she stops spacing out. Now we're montaging our way across the beautiful, varied terrain of the American Northeast. After a while, she finds her first obstacle, as a leery first-time mountain driver takes it real slow on these switchbacks. She pulls right up their butt, but they're scared, and oncoming traffic and her trailer make passing a sketchy proposition. Still, when she gets the chance, she makes the attempt, but also makes the mistake of giving a challenging stare to the other driver. A lesson we learned a few weeks back, pre-copy strike, and he gives it a little gas to make sure she's committed to this move. She is, and wins a game of chicken with a tanker, and gets a new friend out of it as he shows his respect for the game by tooting and flashing as a means of saying hello, until she finds an exit to pull off and put him safely in front of her. When she stops to fuel up, Jessica calls her dad to let him know she went ahead and hit the road early, despite a prior commitment she had to him. The goal was to get some miles behind her and avoid any drama with her mother, but their conversation is cut short when she gets distracted by a drive-by, potentially from her new friend. She arrives at the motel and skips a call from her mom so she can skim through a photo album of her recently dead husband and embrace her sorrow. She then goes to sleep while staring out the window. The next morning she wakes up and prepares to do it all again. However, she's stopped momentarily by a fellow traveler, who awkwardly gives her the old ta-da!
Do you recognize me?
And he takes the opportunity to apologize, claiming the events of the prior day were a simple series of misunderstandings and mistakes, fueled partially by road texting. But why are you here, bro? Regardless, he gives his apologies and wishes her well. Then she's back on her way, still avoiding that call from her mom, when, lo and behold, a fantastic coincidence arises. He patiently awaits her approach, but then is surprised to find she won't open up for him. He attempts to curry her sympathy, but seems oddly insistent that he can't wait for a tow truck, and would much rather enlist her help rolling his car off the road and driving him to the next service station. He gives her the hard sell, but we all know about Ted Bundy at this point, and she's in a hurry to return some videotapes, so she leaves him in her rear view. She then balances out these good decisions by pulling in for a quick rest in a semi-vacant parking lot at night to call her mom back. They converse while a couple of men loiter nearby. As she finishes her phone call, a familiar vehicle pulls up right as the other drivers are leaving, so her intent is to take off, this time without even bothering to listen to his kind words. She heads off down a rural road and is only on that path for a short while before she sees headlights bearing down on her from a distance. She frantically calls 911, but it ends up being a false alarm. But then, after another little bit, she begins to lose control of her vehicle and struggles to pull it safely off the side of the road. She gets out and discovers this to be the work of a flat tire on the trailer with a suspicious slash to the sidewall. Then a fresh pair of headlights approach. Jessica tries to disengage the trailer quickly and get back in her car, but the man approaches bearing a tire iron and, without hesitation, strips away any pretext of courtesy. After a brief struggle, he's able to inject her with a substance that ensures a more convenient transport from this point on. Jessica wakes up sometime later in a stone-walled room, completely naked from the ankles down. She explores her surroundings but doesn't have access to much information, other than that the man appears to enjoy gardening in his spare time, and also that he is impervious to her begging. After nightfall, he finally comes to check on her. She attempts to ascertain his motives, starting with the assumption that he's looking for money, but then is disturbed by him asking her to remove her clothing. She tries to convince him that she has to use the bathroom first, which he pretends to allow as a fake-out because he's a master manipulator. Once on the ground, he pulls up to be the big spoon like a true creepster, and they watch some home videos off her tablet. As he attempts to learn more about her boo, we find out that his recent death was a result of suicide. He keeps pressing for information, forcing her to relive the trauma, which at least has the positive outcome of causing him to leave her to her grief for the remainder of the evening. She wakes up in the morning to the sound of a vehicle starting up and driving off, so she immediately sets to the task of trying to escape. She works frantically to release a protruding nail from a post, and then uses it to employ an old trick. She's then able to unlock the door from the inside and venture upstairs. Here she's forced to slip into a front closet as he returns home for lunch. She watches him, tight-lipped, as he goes about his daily business, meticulous in how he prepares his cheese. He then has a perfectly normal conversation with his wife, making it sound like he is supposed to be on a business trip, and we even learn that he has a daughter.
Oh, I'm
miss you too, sweetheart.
And he maintains a remarkably calm demeanor, considering. After the call, he walks off whistling to go check on his special little secret prize, and she takes off out of there like a jackrabbit into the woods. He gives chase, but she has a good lead, which is squandered when she is violated via forced penetration of the foot by a twig. As a result, he ends up catching up with her at the river, and after a brief standoff, she takes the only action available to her. She lets the current carry her a piece downriver, and hopefully emerges on the opposite bank. Now it's just a matter of traversing the unyielding wilderness, but shortly after finding a good walking stick, she's horrified by the sound of approaching footfalls in the brush. Jessica ducks behind a tree and waits, jumping out the last moment to blast a kindly old man across the chest. This move ultimately delays her requests for assistance as he's somewhat wary of her intentions. He agrees to at least make a quick call for her, but finds that his phone was obliterated in the attack. As an alternative, he hesitantly marches her toward his car. By the time they arrive, he has regained some of his trust and gives her a pair of his wife's boots, and a little nibble for the car ride back. Unfortunately, the road is now blocked, and old Robert's not aware of any other pathway out. Jessica becomes desperate to continue their forward progress, but then a familiar vehicle approaches from behind. The man runs out with his cell phone to his ear, pretending like he's on the horn with emergency personnel and has been out looking for Jessica. He acts as though she's prone to episodes like these and that he and her family have been worried about her. He's able to sow enough confusion to get close to her and attempt to get her back into his vehicle, but then she runs off, and it's just too confusing for Robert, who asks to borrow his phone so he can call the police to verify the situation as he described is legit. He's then severely beaten for his trouble and finished off with a headshot. Now armed with a gun, the man pursues Jessica into the night. She eventually finds a little rocky enclave that, under different circumstances, would be quite pleasant to visit. She hides out here, but her respite is soon disrupted when the alcove is illuminated by an approaching flashlight. She attempts to escape under cover of darkness, but winds up taking a bullet to the shoulder blade. She scurries off and crawls into some bushes as he runs after her. Knowing she's still close, he calls out into the darkness and paints an ugly picture of what's going to start happening to her body over the next few hours thanks to the bullet wound. His recommendation is that she fight while she can, and as a sign of good faith, he even puts down his loaded gun and gives her 1 minute to retrieve it. What a good guy! He attempts to aggravate her while she continues to play Toad, and no matter how charming his speech,
"I'm gonna get you, you delicious fucking bitch!"
she holds steady and declines to play his game. He eventually moves on, giving her a chance to stretch out a bit and let the rain wash away her blues. The next morning, she wakes up stiff but refreshed and continues to wander among the tall pines and climb the mossy stones of redemption until she hears the distant rumble of an engine. Upon approach, she witnesses her pursuer parking along the woodland road to dispose of the prior day's hunt in a previously prepared shallow grave. As he tends to this ages-old ritual, she circles around to try to snag his ride. After very carefully entering the vehicle, she attempts to find the keys, but is only able to acquire his phone. Since she has somewhat committed herself at this point, she has little choice but to duck into the back as he returns to the vehicle. She keeps quiet enough, and once there's a sufficient amount of road noise, she calls 911. Unfortunately, it's not quite noisy enough for her to be able to speak loudly enough for them to hear her, and then he realizes his phone is missing. She waits about as long as she can stand and then jumps out to start whapping him with a tire iron. To his credit, he takes quite a beating, and it's not until she turns his old pig sticker against him that he ends up losing control and overturning the vehicle. Jessica crawls out first and lays on the ground, staring up at the sky through the trees. Then, when a helicopter flies by, she gets up and takes off into the woods as he pursues her. Jessica soon finds herself in a clearing where she has the bright idea to whip out your boy's phone and call his wife. Absolutely cold-blooded. She even puts her on speakerphone, identifying herself and explaining the situation. So if she happens to go missing, everyone now knows the deal. Then she tosses him back his phone and he goes dark behind the eyes. Now it's time to engage in the final showdown in an area where it is, unfortunately, very muddy, and Jessica only gets the chance to use a little bit of her Krav Maga skills. She otherwise gets by on pure luck, eventually finding herself with the opportunity to stare into his eyes as the lights begin to dim. Then she finds herself spiritually renewed in the gentle breeze of the helicopter rotors, and also via the catharsis that comes from achieving a righteous kill against a serial killer. If that wasn't too much for you, be sure to check out this video next. Now that we're here, I want to congratulate you for making it to the end of the video and affirm that you are a very special person because of it. And if you enjoyed the video, I would love for you to become a part of the channel by subscribing. Thanks for watching.